This program is made possible by grants from the Morris Foundation, the Bodenhammer Foundation, and the Horace C. Cabe Foundation.
Yuck. You know, they say that only 1% of the people on this planet actually play a musical instrument. Well, I know why. Because it's just so hard to do. That's me, Kabin Thomas. I play tuba. Music is my life. It is who I am. It's as important to me as breathing. But right now, I'm drowning, trying to get this doggone piece under my fingers. The problem is it was written over 130 years ago for this thing, the Ophicleide, a slightly higher-pitched instrument long since gone the way of the dinosaur. So why am I trying to play all these high notes on the tuba? Well, believe it or not, it's because this man asked me to. His name is Richard Rosenberg. Don't let the kazoo fool you. Richard has conducted major symphony orchestras all over the world. He trained with the best, Leonard Bernstein, Aaron Copland, Lauren Mazel. In the summer of 1983, he was a rising young conductor at the Aspen Music Festival when something happened that changed his path forever. He met a young choral conductor named Laura Schneier. Within a week, they were engaged. Even before they met that summer, Richard and Laura were beginning to sense that something was wrong in the world of classical music. They dreamed of starting a new kind of music festival.
Fortunately, both of us were too young in our careers at that point to have been disillusioned ourselves, but we saw other musicians being disillusioned, and we saw them getting to the point where they were not having the joy in the process of making music.
Where everyone watches their clocks much more than the music. And I wanted to create an army of musicians who are in music because they love it and not because their parents forced them to practice 5 hours a day when they were children.
We envisioned a place where musicians could be nurtured at the beginning of their professional career, where they could explore musically and where they could be given some guidance professionally so it wouldn't seem so frightening the first time out of the box.
At that festival in 1983 in Aspen, we knew that eventually we would want to do something like this, that there needed to be a festival that helped to bridge the gap between being a student and being a professional. So it was a dream that we had for a good decade before we embarked upon it.
Sorry, yeah, thank you. The Nazaza sounds a little bit Arkansan.
In 1995, after visiting 47 states, the Rosenbergs decided this would be the best place to start their music festival. Hot Springs, Arkansas. Not exactly the center of the universe when it comes to classical music, but a town with a colorful past, set in a beautiful national park where steaming water bubbles up from underground. And signs remind tourists that Bill Clinton once played saxophone here in the high school band. In a few days, the 4th annual Hot Springs Music Festival will begin. And I'll be here with my tuba, along with 170 other musicians from 18 countries. For 2 weeks, we're gonna fill this town with a beautiful sound, the sound of dreams coming true.
If you want to get a job performing flute, it's like next to impossible. There's flutists everywhere. And it's like, if you really want to play flute, and that's what I really, really want to do because I love it, you have to work at it.
Mercedes Smith is an unbelievable player. She is Miss Focus, and that is it, man. You've got to focus. She's going to get what she wants because you can see it. You can see the burn in her eyes. And she's so young, 16 years old. She'll be the youngest apprentice at this year's festival. To be an apprentice, you have to audition, and the competition is tough. At the festival, Mercedes will be teamed up with a mentor, a professional musician. And even though she's not a pro, she'll be expected to play like one. Now, there are many Ophicleids like it, but this one, for the next 2 weeks, is your baby. So the first notes. As Todd Cranson's tuba mentor, it is my duty to introduce him to a taste of history, the Ophicleid.
The brass mouthpiece wasn't finished, and so it tasted bad. But I thought if I worked hard enough, I could play it.
Todd is one of the best students I've ever had. He loves a challenge. Secretly, I'm hoping he can learn to play this thing well enough to handle the solo I've been struggling with on tuba. He wants to give it a shot, but you know, he's young, enthusiastic. He reminds me of myself at that age, except he's white and thinner and smarter, you know. But I say, go for it, baby. Okay, you're on. Got it? Yeah, we're gonna do the CD recording. That's something new for this year's festival. We'll be recording some interesting music Richard dug out of the French National Library in Paris. They're pieces written by a group of composers known as the Creole Romantics, free black men who fled New Orleans before the Civil War to live and work in France.
It's like finding a buried treasure. This is music, important music from American composers from the 19th century that was beloved in its own time and completely unknown nowadays. I transcribed this music fully expecting it to be played on the tuba. When we found out that there was an Ophicleid in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, we certainly decided to give it a whirl. And I was thrilled that Todd was willing to learn it.
Both Todd and Mercedes are headed off for an experience they have never had before. Learning music in days, performing it for audiences, and having to be absolutely perfect. I mean, these are some of the best players in the country coming down here to perform.
Get your room assignment over there, okay? Hi. Thank you. Hi. Hello, Liana.
There are people who are hell-bent for leather when it comes to wanting a career in music.
They are from everywhere, and it's very interesting how diverse they are as a group. We'll have people checking in who are 18, and we'll have people checking in who are 33, and it needs to be clear to them from the way we handle every aspect of the check-in, of the housing, that they are equal participants in the pool of musicians here.
Ow!
Oh, did I get you?
Yep,
I'm sorry.
that was my head. It's okay.
What Laura really means is, whether you're coming to the festival as a mentor or as an apprentice, this is where you're going to live. The Arkansas School for Math and Sciences. It's not the Ritz, it's a dormitory. You know, a lot of concrete and bad furniture. They say it used to be a hospital. I mean, people died in here. But we're not complaining because it's free.
It works. Wow.
The use of the building is donated to the festival by the school. That's one of the things that makes the Hot Springs Music Festival really different. The apprentices pay no tuition for the experience. They just have to get here.
Come to orientation tomorrow morning. Come early if you want coffee and strudel.
I really didn't believe it was going to happen until that first orientation meeting when we sat in the chapel at the Math and Science School and saw the 90 musicians who arrived for that first festival. It wasn't until that moment that it really struck that we had accomplished something.
Okay.
Okay, well, let's do it. All right, we'll figure out the other stuff as we go.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. We are extremely glad to have all of you here.
A great deal of information needs to be given them in a short period of time.
You will meet your mentors, those who are here, at the conclusion of this session, and they will assign the part to you.
That's what's going on the surface. Underneath, what is happening, even without their realizing it, is that they're starting to build that community. If this group of musicians did not become a community almost instantaneously, the musical aspect of what we do would not be possible.
For those of you who are wondering exactly how far we would go for this music festival, the '98 commemorative poster.
We put our butts on the line. All right, let us break out into sections.
Okay,
have a good festival.
Go for it.
For the musicians, this is the moment the festival really begins, when we all get our pieces of the musical puzzle.
That'd be good for you. It'd be good for all of us to learn all of that. Oh my God.
Who wants the Sanson? Who wants the Schoenberg?
You're going to be on a lot of stuff, okay? So it'll keep you nice and busy.
Somehow we'll put them together to create over 20 concerts and 3 compact discs, all in the next 2 weeks.
I can do it. What's that?
We don't know this music, and I had no idea what it was going to involve. And I was like, okay, it's a third flute part. This has got to be easy. No, it's like this humongous piccolo solo thing, and it's like, oh my God, panic time.
We all have a lot of music to learn very quickly.
Yeah, we know for sure he is not coming.
But Laura and Richard have other concerns.
We've had a cancellation due to illness of one of our violin mentors at the Hot Springs Music Festival, and are looking for someone to fill in.
Listen, if we can find anybody who can do this work for us at this kind of notice, it won't matter where they're from. You know, I mean, we'll have to do it. We'll have to make it work.
Our biggest concern right now is since we're only certain that we have 17 violins. You know, we do have everything else we need. We're a little bit short on double basses, but we expect more soon. At least we're hoping.
And I will make sure that you're picked up at the airport here. I mean, in Little Rock. And we just need you to try to make it happen. Okay? The world is different now than when Casals was marketing himself as a performer.
Thankfully, by the time Laura begins her talk that evening on the business of being a classical musician, a new violin mentor has been found, and reinforcements for the string section are on the way.
Unique and professional, all right? You want to demonstrate to people that you have a level of professionalism. This is what I am, and you can count on me. And then the other half of it is unique. I am unusual. There is something that sets me apart.
Todd's working real hard on the being unique part. He may be the only ophicleide player in Arkansas.
I played an A in tune.
Yeah, it's all over the place. But, man, you're doing some fun things with it. Let's make it work. Next person to listen to it is Richard, and let's have it happen today.
It's hard to be tactful and polite and sincere at the same time. My immediate reaction is, okay, we can't use this on the CD. We might be able to do it in performance. At least if we don't do it in performance, we should at least demonstrate to the audience what it is and why it was there and why it's no longer there.
Let me just like start the piece with him, but then have him actually do it. Yeah.
It was a wonderful compromise that helped make the experience really positive for Todd and left me on the hook.
Okay, then I'll keep working on it. Okay.
And for several months, I only know them by an audio cassette tape and a sheet of paper. And then they arrive, and there they are warming up their instruments and practicing these hard licks, and all of a sudden, you know, you've got this orchestra where there was none before. It's exciting. It's a very exciting thing to be at the helm of this. It was like being a little bit in front of a locomotive, and there's nothing you can do. You're just sort of going down the track, and behind you is this gorgeous, shiny instrument that's just glorious.
To have all the rehearsals open means that people can attend to see what kind of massacre we present at the first rehearsal, to see how we sort it out, how we actually arrive at the performance.
Yeah. Please, winds, start piano, crescendo, forte, back down to piano. Okay, everybody.
A lot of the people who come through the hotel lobbies or the galleries and hear the music that we're rehearsing wind up buying tickets for the concerts.
Thank you, yeah. Not bad for a brand new orchestra.
Yeah, there's one more, Flute of Princess, that hasn't showed up.
The overall appearance of the orchestra just improved with the arrival of Suzanne Kierton, the principal flutist with the Naples, Florida Philharmonic Orchestra.
Did you guys rehearse the flauta?
Yeah, we did. We did it
look
without
at
her.
Yeah,
And we were
did you
gonna
like
get
it?
She brought along a tricky little Latin number for her apprentices to perform.
We had to work on getting it together rhythmically, and you know, I knew that would be a challenge and a fun one.
Feel free to dance around, you know. You're not like in a tuxedo or whatever, you know. Okay, ready?
You have to be exactly perfect on the rhythm every time. And if one person makes like a millisecond mistake, everybody gets off. We would schedule extra rehearsals just because we were having trouble with this piece. So we were rehearsing like at 10 at night or 11 at night. We eventually got the piece going.
By now, we've basically taken over the town and made it one big rehearsal hall. It's amazing how many churches, hotels, and art galleries open their doors for us. And the music just flows.
The apprentices here are very good. There's nobody really that can't handle what they're doing, and there's some that are just really good. When you're around people that are better than you, or very good, then you have higher standards and you just rise to the occasion. And so I've played better being here.
Let's take a moment to get our bearings. Okay, here's the school where we live, and this is the path we take to get to the big concert hall in Hot Springs. You go right down Central Avenue about a mile until you reach Horner Hall. This is where we'll have our big orchestral performances and also do most of the recording sessions. Some musicians drive to the rehearsals, but I like to walk, as long as I don't have to carry my tuba. Along the way, you pass beautiful old bathhouses preserved in the national park. People line up to bottle their own fresh spring water. It's been percolating 4,000 years and comes out at 143 degrees. And that's about how hot it feels as we gather for the afternoon orchestra rehearsals. Thank goodness Horner Hall is air-conditioned. An orchestra is arranged in groups of instruments, and each section has a pecking order based on how tough the part is to play. At this festival, the mentors and the apprentices sit side by side in the orchestra. Richard makes sure that no one gets stuck on the back row.
The rotation system that we've instituted here means that people sitting in the front of the section remain there, but everyone behind them rotates from session to session so that they're sitting in close proximity to the mentor at least one point during a rehearsal process and the performance.
Thank you. Very nice.
The quality is so high that since we can rotate from musician to musician, just putting someone in the hot seat, in the principal position, in the soloistic seat of a section, forces them to very, very quickly concentrate and focus their amassed talents so that it's hard to distinguish between the mentor and the apprentice. But without the mentors being there, they might not have the same kind of confidence to take those chances.
I mean, I think it's pretty cool that Suzanne comes and sits in there with us. I mean, man, she sounds good, and we sound better because she sounds better, you know. Just having her there helps us.
We'll get a chance to do this again and work a little bit more of it in the dress rehearsal.
While Richard takes care of the music, Laura is busy with other chores, like hauling apprentice Joe Kaufman and his double bass from one rehearsal to another.
They're running around all the time like chickens with their head cut off. They're great though. They get everything done. Laura, she's kind of firm. When she wants something done, you know that she wants it done, but she always does it with a smile on her face, which is really nice. You will get this done, you know. And it's nice. It's never a drag to have to do something for her because she's always very appreciative.
I have to go back to my office and pick up the rest of the production crew, and then we have to move the harpsichord for tomorrow night's concert. We hadn't quite realized from a production standpoint that we would need to use 2 harpsichords in 2 different venues this week. So we're having to improvise. We've been very lucky in terms of people making resources available, but we've worked hard for that too. It's what makes it possible for us to do this, because if we had to do this all on a cash basis, we couldn't raise as much money as it would take to do it in this town. But by doing about 2/3 of the resources on a non-cash basis, we're actually able to produce a $350,000 music festival on just over $100,000 a year. In the downstairs hallway, there's a built-in cupboard there. There's toilet paper. Could you get a couple rolls for the bathroom?
Have her call it the Hot Springs Music Festival.
Okay. I just ran 50. I'm probably done by now.
Okay.
The volunteers make or break this festival. And it's absolutely astonishing what these people do.
Sean Kelly. Harpsichord move.
Good. go.
Okay,
Come on.
good.
Okay, sure, the back down.
Okay, back into a level position whenever.
Back level.
We have over 350 volunteers who work with us during just the 2 weeks of the festival, and then dozens and dozens more who work with us during the course of the year.
Thank you, Howard, that's perfect.
There are people who literally take their vacation weeks to work for the festival. I mean, they come from Texas or California or other places and work like dogs for 2 solid weeks, and then they go home and work the rest of the year because they've taken their vacation time to do this.
I'll just yell directions. Okay, that's all right.
Because of the nature of this particular beast, it is important for me to be relatively hands-on with every facet of the organization.
Straight ahead.
I feel, in a way, like the spider in the middle of a giant web. I pluck a string or move something here, and I'm in constant motion during those days. And yet, it is a very creative juice that's flowing, and you know, it's literally a different kind of plane of existence.
I'd like to welcome you to the official kickoff of the 4th Annual Hot Springs Music Festival, Rituals and Reveries.
Even though all the rehearsals have been open to the public, we've been basically playing for ourselves. That changes when the concerts begin. Now we play for the audience.
We do a lot of concerts in churches, and the churches are packed full with people. I mean, it can be pretty scary to walk out there sometimes and you see the audience and you see the music in front of you and you think, oh my goodness, I can never play this. You have to do it. The audience is already there. You're already on the stage. Just do it. I mean, sometimes you perform and you look out at the audience and all those old ladies are sitting there smiling and they love it and you love it and you're like playing for them and it's like, this is so cool.
You know, classical music is a little bit of a tough sell. And yet, we come here and the audience responds like, just such heart-warming ovations and standing ovations constantly. They appreciate the weakest students to the strongest professionals. They're treating them all very wonderfully. That's not something you see everywhere. I've been in numerous festivals where you have 25 people in the audience when you play. Here it's a sold-out audience, not just for the big concerts, but every single night for 2 weeks.
We've tried to break down a lot of the barriers that people encounter when they go to concerts. We dress the same way people in the audiences dress. We perform in venues that they associate with their daily life. We encourage applause between movements. We want to present the music in a very serious manner, but we want the atmosphere to be one that's very accessible. And the audiences seem to be taking that idea and running with it.
The real moment for me was seeing the audience and musician interaction at the first orchestral concert. It was a very makeshift kind of thing in our first couple of years as far as the physical logistics, but the feeling when that music reached that audience swept away everything that had come before it. You know, those moments of doubt and those moments of exhaustion. And it was an exaltation.
And even at the concert itself, sometimes you discover things about the piece and about yourself and about your colleagues that didn't come out at any other time. I can remember every moment of the concert for weeks afterwards. I mean, it's like you're thinking in microseconds and not just in movements or in phrases. Your thinking is expanded, your senses are heightened.
And that's what music is basically, is an out-of-body experience. I mean, when you can just become totally focused on what you're doing. That's a good thing about being around people that are good, is that most of them get to that point when they're playing, and so whenever everybody is playing and everybody is thinking on a different level than here and now, it's something that I haven't found in anything else. And I guess the closest thing I found would be drinking beer. But you feel bad after you drink beer, you don't feel bad after you play music.
Yeah, everybody's feeling pretty good once the concerts begin. But as in all human endeavors, unforeseen problems lie ahead. From the beginning of this festival, it's been clear to everyone the most important thing on our plate is recording the Creole romantic music.
Because it is a recording of music that almost without exception has not ever been previously recorded, it will put us on the map with the mainstream musical community in a way that almost nothing else could. If the recording did not happen, it would mean a very heavy financial hit for the festival, because we have built our schedule this year around those recordings.
The problem is, when the recording engineers listen to the sound in the concert hall, they hear more than music. Alone in the basement, a huge air conditioner earnestly plays a long, droning song in the key of C, which stands for cool, something rare and valuable in Hot Springs during the month of June. If we're going to do any recording in here, the air conditioner must be silenced.
I had to meet with all of the building staff and find out from each of their separate standpoints what it would take just to shut the stuff down. And for a while, we were told that it would not be possible. It would literally not be possible to shut the things down. We encouraged them to continue researching the options, and eventually were able to come to a solution. When we shut down the air conditioning
Now, she just has to sell it to us, the mentors.
We have very few options and alternatives, and we have been up most of the last night trying to figure out the best of those situations. We believe we've come up with a workable solution. It is not an ideal solution. What we are going to need to do is to shift our recording sessions to a late night format. The days would go from, and don't faint now, 2 in the afternoon till 2 in the morning.
When Laura told me that we were going to have to move the sessions from the afternoon to 11 p.m. to 2 a.m., I practically exploded. I didn't think anyone would go along with this.
But this is a really unusual opportunity for us, and I was actually prepared to go in there and do heavy-duty persuasion and convincing, and then I didn't really need to.
It looks almost better, actually, than the other one, but I have just one suggestion.
It might have decimated us completely. This would have been our last festival. And I think the musicians were aware of that and have certainly come to the rescue.
Now, when are we going to announce this to the apprentices?
What do you mean, we?
Man, this is not going to be easy for anyone. The mentors accept it, mainly because we really believe in what Laura and Richard are trying to do. And hey, it's a festival. It's supposed to be intense. But for Christine Rutledge, a viola mentor, the decision is not so simple. She has someone else to consider. Her infant son, Jake.
Yeah, there you go. That was a real beaut.
He's been staying with his dad during the day, but he needs her late at night.
I usually don't break down, but it just came as a huge shock.
My first reaction was a purely emotional one. And I knew that if I had to come and not get sleep and record in the middle of the night, that I couldn't produce breast milk for him.
It's not important to us that the mentors play in everything.
I was shocked and amazed that there wasn't more reaction. I expected more people to just say, no way. The other music festival that I play in the summer, I would predict 100% that if this were said, that everyone would say, no, we're not going to do it, and the director would expect us to say that. Is it this particular blend of people?
Because they are who they are. Our musicians are chosen specifically by Richard on the basis of their adaptability. These are people who have unusual careers already, who have made some personal choices and some professional choices that we feel are the kind of values that need to be instilled in the next generation of musicians.
What you did is you went, da-da-dee. I am thinking this is very hard. Okay.
As mentors, we're not required to teach lessons at the festival, but most of us do.
Yeah, do it again, and just let your emotion get caught up.
Working with students performing at this level is such a joy.
Yeah, but just try it. Dee, yabba dabba, yabba da dee. Don't slow it down. Because first off, you're way high up, and you don't want to stay.
I'm trying to get Todd out of his comfort zone and then push him a little higher.
You know, there's the edge, and you're doing this. And what I'm asking you to do is to do. That's what you want, you know.
You have to grab people's attention from the very get-go. That's what he was doing. He was trying to keep me from being boring.
All that heat, just get pissed and just keep going.
One of the things that I learned with Kabin is first thing, you got to figure out something to say, what it is that you want to say, and then you got to say it. He never lets you get away without giving it your all and being sure that you're communicating something.
Yeah, right there. We'll cross to the E flat, now up to the A flat.
We're trying to work on excerpt of Ein Heldenleben, Strauss' tone poem.
Now thumb on E flat. Right
it's a killer piece for bass.
There it is. Good. Try that once again. So you have 4.
And some of the licks in that are just nearly impossible. And what Jeff is trying to do is show me how to break it down into small segments.
So let's just practice E flat to A flat, slurring 2. There's not enough time in my entire lifetime to tell someone what to do on every note of every piece they're ever going to play. So what's the shortcut to that? Having them learn how to figure it out for themselves. And that, in essence, is, I think, the art of teaching. 2, 1. Great. I mean, you have the passage now. Sure. And that's one of the hardest technically in all of our literature. And we just discovered that really it's not as hard as we thought, because you have it all already, you've just never used it before. Cool. Isn't that nice?
Oh yeah, it's really nice.
Relax. It was probably the best lesson, one of the best lessons I've had in the last 4 years.
I still see this pushing down a little bit. Yeah, do you understand what I mean? So what happens is that you're starting to, when this muscle comes down,
He identified certain problems I have just right away.
you start to lose the control here, and you start biting a lot. No, once in a while.
He just has this aura of being such a professional and like knowing exactly what he's doing all the time that you have complete confidence in everything he says.
There's always someone better than you, always in the music field. When you come to a festival like this, you start hearing things in other people's performance level that you think, wow, that's so easy for them. Great, John. It's really terrific. For me, as a performer, I learn a lot, you know, because then I go, oh, I gotta really practice that, because they may kick my butt.
And it's a longer phrase than just da 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 dum ba ba da ba ba da 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 da, you know.
Suzanne's very unique. She's very professional. She knows what she's doing.
Yeah, yeah. It's worth it to take it apart and play it slower. You're out in the hall.
I had a lesson with her, and it was really interesting.
You know, you have to really tongue hard somewhere like that.
I played some music that I'm going to be playing for a competition later this summer, and all the contestants have to play the exact same music.
No, you're rushing through here.
She had a lot of really neat ideas, things that I hadn't really ever thought about.
But definitely try to give some different moods instead of just a constant thing. Ba-da-da-dum, ba-ba-dum, ba-ba-dum. It's like a dance. It has to have more... Okay. The physical aspects of playing an instrument are hard. And it is something that has to be repeated. Just calmly keep trying. So try it again and really restate it there. It takes a certain kind of person to be able to do that and not give up and become frustrated.
It's so hard.
Yeah.
Oh, I hate that.
The goal is to be through with the technical stuff in a way, which never really happens, but you know, in as much as possible so that you can be free and communicate music, you know? But music is hard because you're putting yourself out there. I mean, when you play, you're really expressing from inside of yourself, so you have to be pretty strong.
It takes its toll on your body, and you wouldn't think that it does because I'm not like running or jogging or swimming the whole day like athletes do, but I mean, musicians are like the athletes of the small muscles, and if you do this all day long, your hands are totally gonna freak out on you, and it hurts after a while.
When it hurts, stop. If you're practicing and it hurts, stop.
I'm so close to playing it perfectly. It's like I'm almost there and it hurts. Why don't I just do it one more time? It's wrong. One more time, it's wrong. And it never gets there, and then I get mad, and then
you're tense and nothing
right,
relaxes.
and everything's awful.
I mean, I couldn't take a break from it because I had to learn this music, and it had to be perfect, and it had to be done on a deadline. And
may I make a suggestion? It's take a break anyhow.
Yeah.
Let's just do it.
One of my teachers told me that you're only as good as your last performance. So there's almost no point in which you can just sit back and let it ride. It's always new, it's always critical, and you have to be on top of it every single minute. You can't, if you don't rehearse, if you don't practice for a day, you feel it. And today's a free day, but I'll bet that there are a lot of musicians who are spending 6 hours today practicing on their own.
I grew up in the ghettos of Detroit, Michigan, and I didn't get involved in classical music until I was 16 years old. Before then, I was in a gang. I sold drugs, I shot a man, and I was shot. I'm living proof that music has power because it changed my life. This is where it happens, in the practice room, alone, working on a tough piece. Just you and the music. It's a lonely feeling, but you need to have that. It's where you find your inner strength. I'm going to need it tonight when I play the solo. But first, Todd gets to show me up on the Alpha Clyde. I was very proud of Todd and what he accomplished in that short amount of time. He took it on with a good attitude, and that's the key to being successful. And now there's no one in the room but me and Richard and the music.
The most beautiful sound ever produced on the tuba is produced by Kabin Thomas. It resembles a human voice, and he did a beautiful job.
Well, it wasn't perfect, but I've played it much worse. The other musicians seemed to appreciate the effort, so it was worth the journey. Right now, all I'm thinking is, I can do better in the recording session.
Well, right now I'm gonna go to the chiller system and we're gonna shut it down.
It's been a long day. Dress rehearsal this afternoon, an evening concert, and now the first late-night recording session. For many of us, this will be the first time to play on a CD released by a major record label.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay, tape is rolling. Just take one.
The air conditioner's off. The room grows quiet, and our adrenal glands are in overdrive.
The moments right before that first recording session was probably the first silence I've heard in many, many months, which is kind of nice. But then we started playing, and all of a sudden people are hearing things in a way that they don't usually hear. They're concentrating entirely on the music.
Can we stop?
Stop.
At 164, there were some intonation problems with the piccolo.
It's late at night. We're all like zombies. We're all half asleep.
That is take 41.
And we're trying to play really sometimes difficult music. We're trying to play it extremely well. And if one person makes a mistake, the whole orchestra has to sit there and retake the part again.
It still seems to be a slight problem. This is the last bit. Can we take that one more time, please?
This is take 42.
Anything else?
No, thank you. Everything's fine.
All right, bravo.
Next spot. Okay.
I knew that if we could ever get the logistical problems with the hall, the studio, solved, that we would be able to do it. If we just did things frequently, if we pinpointed what the problems were and made sure we had good copies of of every segment of the music that we were able to put together a good CD.
The recording sessions are exhausting. But we managed to have some fun along the way.
Feeling good, baby.
Sillier.
That's the best thing about being around people who are so focused and intense about music. They know how to let it go.
And then the other way.
Sometimes it just spills out into the streets and flows along Central Avenue, serenading the rush hour traffic. One afternoon, we all took off and went to the lake for a little R&R. Even Mercedes skipped her afternoon practice session, so things are definitely winding down. But there's one concert remaining that has us all a little worried. Stravinsky's The Rite of Spring. It's a bear.
I think The Rite of Spring is the piece for which most apprentices came here to perform. It is a piece that is extremely challenging, that for the first half of the 20th century was only performed by virtuoso orchestras. To perform it by an orchestra that's only existed for 2 weeks makes it all that much more difficult. I expect them to be prepared. I expect them to have all the notes in their fingers. Once all the notes are there, then we can actually put the piece together.
It's our last rehearsal, and one apprentice is having problems with her English horn.
What are we going to do? We still have quite a few, well, 6 hours left. You can, I don't know, whatever you need to do to your reed to make it speak better, but do your best, okay?
Well, I was expecting her to perform up to the standards of the mentor.
Moving backwards.
Everyone else had worked out some of these problems. She had not yet worked it out. And I don't like leaning on people like that, but I knew she had the capability, and I knew that she didn't perceive the problem. So I had to accomplish this.
Both the combination of me not being able to produce what I wanted, and also for him as a conductor, he has a lot of pressure on himself, and he wants to see results, of course, right away. One difficulty for the wind players is that whenever we play, or well, often when we play, we're soloists, so we're very exposed all the time, so there is a lot of pressure on us, and the notes just need to be there all the time, and there's no way out of it.
You have a group of 70 or 120 people there. Everyone is exposed. No one can hide. I hope that the pressure that I put on them is more of a challenge to help them to listen to each other in a way that they might not have listened before. I hope I work them as hard as I work myself, and I work myself pretty hard. I'm sad to see it ended. I'm thrilled to see it ended. I'm exhausted and very grateful to a lot of people. Everyone in Hot Springs, all the musicians who came, to the composers who wrote the music, to Laura.
There is a certain satisfaction of just a kind of, you know, wow, we did it. And I mean, we collectively did it. Our personal dream for the festival has been realized, and then some.
It's all over. We did a good job. What'd you think?
Our musicians are getting jobs all over the world. good jobs, principal position jobs, it's really rewarding.
It's going to be kind of sad to leave everybody. You get to know each other pretty quickly in situations like this.
The music may be left on the...
I'm very impressed with the Rosenbergs. I don't know how they did it, but they did it somehow. It's like they made this come out of like thin air, this music festival. I mean, out of Hot Springs, Arkansas.
You're the man. Yeah, you the man.
And now it's over. And man, we did good.
I really believe that. That was great.
Dominique found all the notes on her English horn. Jake found his mother. And I found a reassurance that the future of classical music is alive and flourishing in Hot Springs. I'll be back next year just to hear the beautiful sound of dreams coming true.